Thank you very much, everyone, for helping share some of your expertise and experiences. First question here. Actually, let's go through and introduce yourselves, because I feel like I did not fully give the opportunity to describe everything you do and where you're from. And who you are.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. I am Sarah Pratt. I'm the Revenue Cycle Account Executive at Medics. We are a national healthcare staffing company. Been with Medics for over 4 years, and right now I'm really passionate about leadership. I've been involved with HFMA for about over 3 years, and I help out on our socials, networking committee, been partnered with Nicole, which has been awesome. And at Medics, our main goal is to have a great talent experience and client experience with finding the best fit talent in revenue cycle. Aside from revenue cycle, we do clinical, care management, everything that fits under the healthcare umbrella. But revenue cycle, when I started at Medics, I started recruiting, which is a great opportunity to learn more about attracting, recruiting, and onboarding talent. And as now an account executive, I work really closely with the clients to provide the best client experience and finding talent across different skill sets and really trying to navigate, as I know we're facing a lot of challenges with hiring. And so we're always trying to provide different consulting approaches aside from just hiring talent, but how can we provide the best advice to our clients and also to our talent who are searching for jobs.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Pat?
Hi, everyone. And Sarah is wonderful to work with. We have worked with them for some of our needs. CEO of Inland RCM, I'll tell you a little bit more about our company. We're based in Spokane, Washington. We are part of Inland Imaging Investments, so that's Inland Imaging, the doctors, the radiology, they own us and they're investors, and they support everything we do. And that gives us a lot of strength in the marketplace we're in right now because of all the changes happening and smaller players being acquired by bigger entities and who are then again acquired, and jobs get shuffled, and it's kind of a scary place for employees. For us, that's the security I have with the backing of the radiologists, and we keep our team together. And as I said before, I'm really delighted to talk on this topic because it's really important to me who my people are. They're the person first, and it makes all the difference for us.
Very important. Thank you. Tammy?
I'm Tammy Bickle. I'm the Senior Director for Professional Ability and Coding at Oregon Health and Sciences in Portland. I have been there for 24 years, so a hot minute. And I'm grateful to be on this panel. I do think that people are the most important part of our jobs and that make the success of everything we do. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Fantastic. Pat, I'm going to ask this first question to you. Healthcare is changing rapidly. How are you forecasting future workforce needs and setting clear goals for the talent profiles your organization is going to require?
That's an easy one. No, seriously, there's so much uncertainty now and so many changes, and as decision makers, we're trying to figure it out, the impact of AI and technology and all of these things that are going on. When you look at it at the employee level, it is quite frankly can be a very scary situation when they are hearing all of this, the constant headlines, and so many hospital decision makers being told, oh, you're behind the ball, everybody else has figured this out, and there's just a lot of stuff out there. And what I remind our team when we're recruiting and we're trying to bring in people, it's the type of people we're bringing in. First of all, just for what we do, I hire experienced people. So when we were talking about earlier about bringing them in and training them, that's not what we do. I look for certain levels of experience with the major EMRs. But beyond that, what we're looking at is people who are adaptable, when we interview them, and how they answer the questions and what their outlook is on their job and what they'd like to see in their own future. And those are tough questions because, if it's a medical billing job or a coding job, for the most part, it's pretty much the same no matter where you're applying. What I want to know is about the person, and that's how I advise my managers that are doing the hiring and our HR people. We really want to understand who the person is. Are they open to learning more? We want them to come in with a certain level of experience, but we want to look at people who want to be cross-trained once they're on the job and are comfortable with doing that. And that goes back into adaptability because we do know that things will change. They will need to do their job in a different way in the future. We will have AI that will that will help us with what we do and be more efficient, but it doesn't eliminate who they are and what they bring. And to me, that's the real important part. It is the experience level and that decision-making, that discernment that you're looking for in employees, and that helps us be more prepared as we're looking ahead.
Such important qualities, thank you. In a competitive market, how do you shape a strong employer brand that resonates with top talent, particularly when candidates are seeking both meaningful work and organizational values they can align with? Tammy, do you want to take this one?
I think about just the sense of belonging to an organization, and I also, we typically hire direct. I work for Oregon Health and Sciences University. It's the academic hospital in Portland. I think that their mission and their values really play a role in making a decision to work for OHSU. I've been there, like I said, for 24 years, and it was a sense of pride for me to say I work for OHSU because of what they stand for and the community serve, and they are very committed to Oregonians. And I think when you talk to individuals who are going to be coming on, it's truly like, how do they help fit in to the community that they're serving, that overall mission for OHSU? Because not all of us can be doctors or nurses or, that are out there saving lives, but we do take a critical role in the success of OHSU. And I try to help them understand where they fit in that role, bringing in that, I think Amanda said, every dollar that you can is very important to the success of the organization. So just tying it back to the community and the contributions of an entity is super valuable.
That's wonderful. I learned a new word, Oregonians. I did not know that was a word. Pat, anything you want to share on this topic?
Alluding back to what I said earlier, when you are trying to hire people and get their attention, they're going to do a search on Indeed and how many jobs come up. We all know that, right? So, but the very act of going through and reading the job description, putting together your resume to make sure it aligns with that, and maybe a cover letter and reaching out and sending, we know how there's so many steps. And so as an employer, how do I want to stand out for them? So for me, it's the lead into what the job description is. It's about who we are as a team and how we work with each other. And the community, the clients that we serve, we may not be on the clinical side, but I want them to know that they are making an impact by helping these rural communities. And Anna talked about it earlier very eloquently about, what drives her, what keeping the hospital going and the services that are provided and how far patients have to travel. But it's also about the economic viability of those communities. And so when you are doing, let's face it, we're all working because we need to, right? If we won the lottery, probably not. But you want to have work that is meaningful. And so that's what I try to highlight when we're trying to, so that hopefully they'll take the time to give us their application.
So important to link meaningfulness to what we do, especially in the rev cycle, when you get hidden behind claims and forget about that sometimes. That's great. Sarah, I've got a question for you. Beyond traditional recruitment methods, what sourcing channels, whether social media, universities, or industry partnerships, have been most effective in helping you diversify and strengthen your talent pipeline?
Really good question. Love it. So at Medics, we do not do anything differently from internal recruitment, HR teams, other staffing agencies, but there's a couple things that we've been focused on most recently, and one being strategic partnerships with job readiness programs along with technical colleges. That's one idea that came to mind when I heard this question. And so with the job readiness programs, you have individuals that are coming straight from high school, associates, bachelors, and they're looking to get into healthcare or banking, any other industry. They're really looking for help for resume building, interview prep, application process. How can they get this career help? And they go to a job readiness program. So we partnered with those groups. You also have individuals at those groups that are looking to re-enter their workforce. They took a couple years off for whatever reason, and now they're looking to get back into the workforce, and it is tricky. We know it's competitive, it's intimidating, it's really hard, and so they go out of their way to find these resources. And so, we target those individuals because they're taking the initiative. They're wanting to learn, they're wanting to grow, they're wanting to land their next long-term career and job. Technical colleges, we're all aware of. We found clinical staff from technical colleges along with individuals that want to get into revenue cycle. They get their billing and coding cert, and it's really hard to get entry-level billing jobs, entry-level coding jobs. And so it's been awesome to connect with those talent because, once again, they're taking the initiative. They want to get into this industry, and it's really hard barriers to entry. So we partner with those talent as well. The next tool, I know we all have experience with this, but is referrals. We really lean into referral programs internally at Medics when we're trying to find recruiters and sales individuals, but we also use referrals every single day when we're trying to find good talent to place at our clients. Recently, we did a referrals incentive at Medics. You could win a trip to Italy. Obviously, that's a little intense, but I think there's so many opportunities to have a little referral incentive program with your teams. Gift cards. I know some employers have point programs where you can win different, PTO days, whatnot. So really encouraging your people to go out, look in their network. Who is looking for a job? Is it friends, family? Is it previous coworkers you worked with? And it's just that baseline of good people know good people. So we really lean into that when we're looking for individuals we hire at Medics and at our clients. So I would say that those are the two main pathways. I know it's still traditional, but you got to get creative, and it really goes back to finding good people, those soft skills, who are the talent that are taking initiative to build those skills and build those experiences, and you also get talent from different skill sets and different experiences.
Very impressive. Tammy, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask in the room, who got a job because they know somebody who was there? Yeah, like most of the people in the room. I think it's really important. I am not one that I would love to just go scour a website to find a job that I might be suited for. So I think it's very vital to really look for those non-traditional ways. Posting on, associations. I'm over the coding team, so AAPC, AHEMA, where you can find those talented people. HFMA, we post job postings on our HFMA sites all the time. I'm going to say my biggest flex with recruiting has been LinkedIn. Truly, like I post, and you have to have a catchy little. You can't just say, "Do you want to work for?" Oh, you can't say that. Like you have to have a little catchy title, get somebody's eye, but not only is it there for your network to see, but I have friends, and they repost it for further reach. And I'm recently recruiting for an AD position, and I had 91 applicants. And I'm going to tell you 98% of them were more than qualified for that position. And it's because I have this network of friends with HFMA, within the LinkedIn communities, to really kind of post those positions to get the candidates that you're truly looking for.
Are you providing a trip to Italy as an incentive for people sharing your job postings?
I have teased my teams about a trip to Hawaii, but Italy might be a little much. Okay. We're a public institution. We can't do that.
I feel like we need to up our game. We do a referral incentive, but not a trip to Italy.
This is the first time we did it.
All right, retention. So we've talked about recruitment. Let's talk about retention. Retention begins internally. What steps are you taking to upskill and reskill existing employees through mentorship, cross-functional projects, or apprenticeships to prepare them for future leadership roles? Pat, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. I think, first of all, with that kind of question, it's important to recognize there are some employees that are not going to be excited by that. You might think, hey, you did a great job on that project. Now I'm going to get you involved in this. And just, it's about listening and understanding which of those employees are interested in that. And then it's creating those opportunities that, okay, you can work over here. We know you don't have experience in Cerner, but we need some, eventually we're going to need some help. Someone's going to go on maternity leave, so we're going to start exposing you to this. And so if they rise to the challenge and they want to do it, that's awesome. That then lean into it and see what else that they can be inspired to contribute on. And it really is, it's mutual. But we really approach it with the idea of collaboration opportunities and a complete team chat where people can contribute and you get to see who's involved and who is the one who's more active or who are the ones that are doing that. And when you have that, that is something unique. That is something you want to follow up on. The other thing I do is that I do skip level meetings. So I have managers and directors, and I'm the CEO, and they all know I'm doing this. It's like, I'm going to have a 15-minute meeting with each employee, do it over the course of the year. You just want to check in with them and see how they're doing. And you make it very clear it's not about your relationship with your manager. This is just about, ideas and thoughts. And those are also great places to hear from employees. And when you listen to them that way, they're inspired to also offer up solutions. And that's where you begin to identify who is on the right, who you would put on that track.
So important. Tammy, what approach do you take?
In the billing office, I would like to say that we don't have a lot of turnover. Now, coding is a different world. I'll say that right now. But in my billing office, we don't have a lot of turnover. And so, like, the idea of retaining employees and promoting employees is a little bit more difficult just because we don't have that. I do believe, the first step in retention is truly education and giving the opportunity to learn. We are an enterprise member for HFMA, and all of the educational materials online are free. And so we make sure that our employees have the opportunity to take courses online and make sure that they're reaching the potential. We ask in their grow conversations, what course are you planning to take, or and just promoting that and ensuring that they have the time to do it. And we do offer a 5% shift differential if they reach a certification. For some of our positions, I think that's always an incentive for somebody to continue to learn. What else? I just think that from a coding perspective, coders are very different creatures, and they are more heads down, and they like to stay in their lane, and they don't like to do other things beyond the things that they know. But from my billing team, it's you can see those people who really want to grow and really want to grasp for something higher that they can achieve. And so I worry about looking at those people going, you have done such a great job, here's more work for you, because that's such a disadvantage or disincentivizing them to work hard. But putting them on special projects, if the project comes up and it's something that they're passionate about, making sure that you include those individuals because it's something that you trust that they're going to do a good job in, and that it's something that's meaningful to them. So I think beyond just the work they do, ensuring that they're passionate about the things that they're learning.
Those informal leadership opportunities are so great to find talent and know who your key players are. It sounds like you guys both have some great teams. Next question, what does effective onboarding look like at the executive level, and how can organizations ensure new hires feel included and equipped to succeed from day one? Pat?
Successful onboarding is different depending on the level of the position. I think the higher you go, the longer it takes to be successfully onboarded. You give them time. If they have more responsibilities, they need more time to be able to get their legs under them, and you need to give them that support without also being in their lane too much and micromanaging. But for me, I like to have a 90-day plan. I get very specific. This is what I expect of you. Is this reasonable? And then this is in the first 30 days, and this is what we have in 60. And you check in with them, and you go back. And I encourage my managers to do it as well for a new biller or coder, new enrollment person. It can be a shorter plan, more of a 30-day plan, but to have a plan so expectations are clear on both sides. And for me, that's very important. You're bringing someone into your organization. We all know each other. We all know how we like to work. We know the differences with some of us and how we like to be communicated with. And so for someone new, you have to really lay that out. And I think a written plan is the way to do it.
Sarah, what have you seen that works?
Yeah, a little different approach coming from recruiting. We're working with so many different clients and so many different talent on a variety of skill sets and levels, and exactly what Pat said. But I think it goes back before day one, right? Like the interview process, application process, it's really once again, intimidating. It's super competitive right now in the market. And so I think that process goes back to the interview process. You look at numbers, and there's about 60% of applicants that never hear back after applying to a job. There's a large number of applicants that do not hear back even after interviewing and taking that first step with a job. So, we pride ourselves in really strong communication. I think even before that candidate gets the job, you need to be setting the right expectations on timeline, on the process, what it's like to go through the interview process with your company. I mean, you're setting the first impression once that recruiter, hiring manager, HR person reaches out to the candidate. We're all people, but we want to make sure that this is a human experience and we're making this the best experience for the talent that we're looking to hire onto our company. So I would say, starting off with strong communication, setting expectations and timelines. Even if you don't know when you're going to have the answers from the interview, calling that person, letting them know what your plan is to have, when are you going to have that answer by. So I think it starts then, and then it goes forward. I mean, in the interview process, how many stakeholders are you involving? How many different leaders and hiring manager? Do they have the opportunity to meet different teammates from different levels? Having a diverse interview panel. So there's a lot of different things that we see our customers do, and the most successful would be strong communication, having a diverse interview panel, and also different interviews to get more stakeholders involved. And then after that process, making sure you're setting the right expectations. What does the first day, the first week, the first month look like? How long is it going to take for this person, like Pat talked about, to get onboarded and to get up to speed and running? I think in revenue cycle, KPIs are extremely important. When are you going to start measuring this person's KPIs? Every role, every team, every organization is different. So setting those expectations ahead of time so you can set these people up for success. So those are just some best practices that we see. But I think over communicating and really bringing this person in as a teammate from the very start once you reach out to interview them is the best practice we've seen.
Full spectrum. Thank you, ladies. The next question is, how can healthcare organizations more effectively attract top talent, particularly women, into leadership and technical roles? Pat, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think when we're trying to recruit, we're not looking at it from that perspective, but the idea is that you want to be there for who your candidate is. And if it is, sometimes, you're so restricted on the kinds of questions you can ask and what you can say, but if they give you some clues and you can address that with them, work-life balance, and you try to listen carefully and try to address things that would make your place more attractive for them if this is the candidate that you want to work with. And you want to hear what their career aspirations are and their goals. You might have a candidate who's like, well, this is what I do and this is what I want to keep doing, and that is totally okay. You need people like that. I mean, that's important. But you might have a candidate, well, I have plans and I want to do this for 2 years and then I want to go there. And so for me, it's attracting people is about hearing who they are and what their goals and desires are, and seeing if that aligns with what we see for that position, and if so, trying to help them understand where that would go for them.
Sarah, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so back to interview panels. I mean, making sure that you do have a diverse interview panel. Do you have any women in leadership that can be involved in the interview process? And then I think it goes back to your company brand and your advertising. Are you advertising successful women in leadership on blogs, internal messaging, LinkedIn, social media? I mean, the more that talent see that, I mean, we're built in right now. All talent are looking on social media companies when they're looking at jobs. They're looking on LinkedIn, websites. I mean, we have some smart cookies that are going on websites. They're finding everything they can about a company beforehand. It's not always the case, we know that. But how can you highlight those success stories of women in leadership or women in technical roles? That's huge, the visibility around that. And then I would just say, I know you mentioned this, Anna, I think earlier, but highlighting the different professional groups that your company is partnered with. Women in bio, women in leadership. What are some different avenues that these women in leadership or women in technical roles can explore? I mean, obviously you want to have all these selling points in your in your job postings and on your websites to be inclusive, not just for women, but how are you advertising for those other opportunities? And then the last thing I'd say would be benefits. I mean, Pat talked about this, but at Medics, we do partner with a group called Maven, and what that is it provides around-the-clock support and services to women every step of the process. So infertility, fertility, pregnancy, postnatal, back to work. And so it's a really cool app that we provide our working mothers at Medics. They have access to. And so, just promoting the different benefits that how you support your working mothers or women at your company.
That seems like a very creative opportunity. Thanks for sharing, Sarah. 3-part question. This one's going to be complicated. I'll ask it separately. Can you share an example of when you hired someone from outside of the healthcare industry? What qualifications or experiences stood out and influenced your decision to bring them onto your team? Those are 2 parts. We'll get to the 3rd part here. And tell us about a time you recruited talent from another industry. What qualities or transferable skills convinced you they'd succeed in healthcare? Pat, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the majority of roles I'm hiring for, I'm not going to be looking for someone outside of healthcare, but there are other roles such as like marketing, where it was to me, and I did. I hired someone that I found on LinkedIn and connected with, and we just like, hey, are you still looking? It's like, yeah, because she had the little open to work on there, and it's like, oh, I see the work you've done, and she was just really creative. And when I met with her, she was just like energetic and bright and wanted to explore the opportunity. And the way I did is I brought her in on a contract basis. Like, I'd really like to see you develop into this, and I think you'd be great. And I'm very clear about this is my client, this is how we talk about them, this is how we promote our services, this is who we are. So I had all that laid out. I know who we are, what our voice is. And she was able to take that and run with it. And after 3 months, I created a full-time role, and it worked out really well. I mean, it's because she was so excited to learn a new industry, I think that created that energy, and she brought a different perspective to it than I think maybe if I'd hired someone from internally. And she was super open to so many ideas and bringing them from other parts of other industries where she had worked. So it actually worked out really well.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah?
Yeah, so before this panel, I know the panel earlier mentioned this, but what we do a lot of the times working on customer service collection roles, patient access, is we tailor or we identify customer service, high-end, Starbucks, retail, hotels, what are those soft skills and the competencies that we can target? And so no specific examples, but for those positions, collections, we see it a lot, patient access, and I think you can really find successful people by finding those core competencies. And we do that same thing for our internal hiring at Medics when we're finding sales and recruitment individuals as well as leadership. We really target the competencies, the problem solving, the communication skills, what's their creativity like, all of those different things that really you can get to know so much more about a person aside from their resume, aside from their experience and hard skills. And most of the time you can teach them those hard skills like in collections, patient access, and some other roles in revenue cycle as well. So I would say that, we just really, really hone into the customer service. Love that you target bartenders. We're definitely going to have to start doing that. But yeah, I would say that, we just really target customer service and the right person to match with the right team and go from there.
Really is about finding the right person. I would give one caveat, don't just choose any bartender. It really needs to be the right bartender who would fit in a hospital. Salty Dog Saloon, we might not be going there. Looking 5 to 10 years ahead, so we are going to use our crystal balls and look into the future. What shifts do you see in how healthcare organizations will attract, recruit, and onboard talent? And how can leaders like you ensure strategies remain agile, inclusive, and effective? Tammy, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think, the younger generation is kind of resetting expectations about hiring and what, workforce looks like. They don't want a 50, 60 hour a week job. They want to go in, they want to do their job, they want to do it to the best of their ability and know that they've brought value to the institution or the organization, and then they want that work-life balance. They want to go home, they want to have the fun, and I think the core to ensuring successful ongoing recruitment is flexibility. Really understanding that it might not be an 8 to 5 job. It could be a noon to 7. As long as it fits into the work that they're doing, who cares when it's done, if it's done and it's done with passion and it's done accurately. So I really do think flexibility is big. I've got a 26-year-old son. He's now unemployed. And he's like, I want a 30-hour a week job. I don't want to work. And he's very qualified. He's a computer programmer. If anybody has a job for him, let me know. But only for 30 hours. But they're brilliant, and these younger people come in and they are brilliant and they can do the work. I just don't think we can put them in a square. They're a square box. Thank you. Because they're circles now or they're triangles, and I think it's very important just to be flexible about how you proceed in the future.
Sarah, where do you see the future going?
Great question. No idea. But I think in recruiting, on the attracting and recruiting side of the recruitment process, we're going to see technology and AI play a huge role. I mean, even at Medics, we're evaluating an AI, or I should say more of an agent, to field some calls to talent and have that first screening call, ask them questions, what are your preferences? So it's something we're already seeing today, but I think in the attracting and recruiting part of the recruitment process, we need to be doubling down on our human capital. We need to keep that personal touch, because the further we move away from it, the less creativity, the less authenticity we're gonna have in that first interviewing, talking to talent, and recruiting them for the jobs, which I think is extremely important. So that's the first part is, use technology and AI to our advantage, cost savings, time savings. I mean, as you said, Tammy, I'm sure it took you so long to go through those 90 applicants, and we're seeing that time and time again for remote roles. So how can we lean into technology and not be the last one to do it? And then on the flip side, how are we onboarding and retaining our talent is just investing. I think, we have to keep adapting and investing. I know you talked about this, Anna, earlier, and Pat just mentioned this, but are you talking to your current employees about what their future holds? What are they looking to get into? Is that leadership? Is that mentorship opportunities? Is that coming to networking events like this? And so really just investing in our A players. Or else, they're going to move on and go to another company that has those selling points, that has the flexibility. So just really honing into that personal piece too. Like, how are we checking into our A players? Are they doing well? What do they need from us? And then going from there.
Wonderful. Pat?
Yeah, I think for all of us who've been doing this for a while, it can feel uncomfortable about what are these changes and what do we have to be thinking about, right? But I think it's refreshing. I think there isn't a reason that the current way we do things is the right way and that we should stick with it. The openness to exploring, for some of our roles, especially on the customer service side, where it can be a thankless job because people are calling to complain, right? Like, my medical bill, I don't understand it, right? And so is it better to have a 4-day work week or to split that up into 2 part-time roles? And can we accommodate that to find the right people for the people that will continue to feel motivated by that job? Is it something that we consider, like you said, the different work hours? Do they, because of their lifestyle or where they live or what their obligations are. 7 to 3 is better for them. Being open to being there and being responsive, I think, is important. I mean, my kids, my son just graduated, my daughter's a junior. I know the work world is going to be different, and I hope there's people out there that are starting to think about what are those differences, because it's more important that they find meaning in their work, which is so positive. You want that, right? So we should be helping them connect the dots and find the meaning in their work. And sometimes maybe it's not the job, or maybe it's a charitable cause that you as an organization support, and that helps give them meaning. But listen to them and find those from them. So I think there's a lot of potentially positive changes that make the work environment maybe a little bit different, but in a good way in the future.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, my coding team has worked from home for 20 years, I think, and I have coders across the United States in almost probably 30 states. And so they've been accustomed to that. The billing teams, for the most part, have only been home the last 8 years, and 50% of them didn't want to go home. And from a management standpoint, I didn't want them to either, because I felt like I was losing that control over the employee, and I lost that ability to look at their face and say hello and that sort of thing, and that scared me a little bit. But when COVID hit, we sent them all home. Even the ones that didn't want to go home before, like, you could not drag them back into the office now. But it's as a manager or a supervisor, you have to learn to be flexible in how you manage, and trust that it works. And I find that my employees are way more productive at home than they were in the office. And even if they're doing a load of laundry between whatever, they're still more productive, because they're happier. And that commute, who was saying something about the commute earlier, was like, I was traveling 2+ hours a day to go to work and back, and it just has freed up so much. So don't be afraid to lose a little bit of control, because you will regain it.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, everyone. Before we wrap up, I want to ask the audience, are there any questions that you have? We have 3 strong leaders up here who are experts in recruitment, and now is your opportunity to ask questions. Or retention, or onboarding. No additional questions? Is everyone napping after lunch?
Probably.
I could ask.
Okay.
Favorite interview question?
So mine's a 2-parter. I always say, tell me about a time when you worked on a project where you knocked it out of the park. Everything went well, and it went as planned, and it was a high success. And so they tell me, and I was like, great. Now tell me a time when you worked on a project, everything went sideways, and what did you learn from it? And it's surprising to me, like, everybody fails. I fail. Everybody fails. But it's surprising to me how many people don't want to tell that story. But that's what makes you learn, right? Is a fail, and then you move on. But you learn from it. So that's my favorite interview.
I really like to start with something open-ended, because I just want to listen and get a sense of the person. So I'll just ask a variation of, like, how did you find this career, or what got you to this place? And it's an opportunity where they can get comfortable and start speaking, and I can just kind of start to get a sense of who they are. And it's my favorite way, because for me, in an interview, I want to do the majority of the listening and not very much of the talking. And it's an easy softball question for them. Hopefully everyone's prepared, but once they do, then you can ask further questions, and they just get more comfortable, and you get more information about them. And so yeah, that's how I like to do it.
Similar to Pat, mine would be, tell me about what you're looking for in your next role. Very open-ended. I think you can ask this across different skill sets, different experience levels. It's really important from leaders. I mean, I know a lot of the clients we work with on higher level roles, they want like longevity. They want someone that wants growth opportunities, that wants to grow within a company pretty much at any level and any role. So I love that one. The simple, just tell me about yourself. I mean, it's really hard to learn about someone in a short time, in a 30-minute, 45-hour-long interview, but you can really learn about how someone talks about themselves in an interview-like setting. I mean, you're going to have a lot of red flags when you ask that question from some candidates, but then you're also going to really learn about someone, what matters most to them, what are their values, what are their soft skills and competencies, and more so on the personal side versus the professional when you start off with that question. So just opening it up and really just seeing what, they have to say.
You brought up a great point, red flags. What are some of those key red flags that you guys watch for as you're interviewing in the hiring process? That would be, ooh, that's a no. We're definitely not going to hire this person. What should we be watching for?
What first comes to mind is how someone talks about their previous employer or their previous coworkers, subordinates, whatever. If they talk about them in a negative light. We've all had challenges. We've all faced challenges with people we've worked with. And so just how are they framing that up? Is it complaining? Is it, talking about them in a negative light where they're not talking about how they overcame that challenge or, how that made them better to who they are today. So that would be one, how someone is showing up to an interview. I mean, it's very, very easy in this virtual world to be very casual. I'm sure a lot of us are wearing pajama pants and professional tops when we're working in the virtual environment, which is fine, but it's better to be overdressed than underdressed. And so how is someone showing up to that interview, whether it's virtual or in person? First impressions are everything. And so, whether that's us screening candidates on the phone and they're in a drive-through at McDonald's ordering food, that's a huge red flag. But then as well as showing up to an interview virtually or in person, how does that person carry themselves? So I would say that, more so the mannerisms, everyone can learn, everyone can grow and make mistakes. We're all human, right? If you show up late because the Zoom meeting, it was hard to get into, so be it. That's happened to all of us. It happens to all of us on a daily basis. But how are people talking about past experiences, talking about past people that they've worked with, and how are they showing up?
I think that's great.
You look like something to add, Pat.
Yeah, I 100%. It's remote and they're showing up online. I'm going to put my jacket on. I'm going to be prepared and dressed. And if they're not, that's a clear red flag. So I don't think that when you're doing a remote interview, that somehow makes it less of an obligation to. So that's definitely, for me, the type of people I'm hiring, I'm looking to see, are they making eye contact with you? Are they looking at the camera? Are they answering questions? Do they have those soft skills? Are they well-spoken? You might think that, they're working remotes, coders or billers, and that's, but they're going to be interacting with their teammates. They're going to be interacting with their managers. And once in a while, they may be interacting with someone from a client. For me, that is a very important part of the type of team I want to build. So those are red flags for me when there's short, curt responses, or they're just expressing themselves in a way that just comes across very negative. And then you worry about what kind of element that introduces to your team, because for remote, that is how people connect. It is the language they use, whether it's in a team chat or what they're saying on an all-company call or team call. So those things are very important.
Anything you want to add, Tammy?
Good. Thank you.
Oh, I see questions. Jana.
How do you manage retention when you're dealing with employees who are near the top of your pay scale, or there's not a lot of room for just overpaying them, basically, whether it's a long-term employee, somebody who's been there 20 years and is really at the top of their bracket, or they're a shorter-term employee and they're in a job that just doesn't command that much. What are your retention strategies?
Mine is really I have that. It happens frequently, and mine is to really engage with them as what are the things that they would like to do, even if we don't have a promotion opportunity for them. But what are the things that they like to do in their job on a daily basis, and see where they could better fit into. Maybe you can, because we have our insurance fault team. I've got 5 teams, and maybe they do a really great job, but this team is struggling. So, and this person likes to mentor, person likes to teach, and so being able to move them around and let them have that opportunity to shine where they best excel is one way that we do it. I do think it's very hard because we have little turnover, especially in our billing office, and we're getting to that point where I have employees that have been there longer than me. I've been there for 24 years, and so that happens. I think that they just have to enjoy their job.
What we look at is where they are, and then the next level, like 1, 2, 3. And so to get to that level, you're willing to do that work. Is that where you want to get to? And if they're at that, then we need a team lead because we're growing. And is that something you want to do? So I think it's also having that conversation about if you want that pay bump, like it comes with additional responsibilities, and can we get you there? Is that something you're comfortable with? And usually they are, but once in a while it'd be like, no, and then okay, well, and then you just have to figure out like, okay, there are other things about the job or other things that we can accommodate. So it is a mutual conversation, I feel like, but one that you should have. You shouldn't shy away from it.
Ryan, did you have a question as well? Did I see your hand up?
Just figured you all wanted to hear my voice again. No, so kind of on the flip side of that is we're talking about, lifting and leading and really trying to help mentor women and get them into higher roles potentially. Thinking of the flip side, I know I've had some folks within my team that have interviewed for leadership roles or the next level. What are your thoughts or some suggestions, I guess, on how you deliver the message to them that they're not ready? That might not be their garden to grow in. That might not be the right place for them. Because I know, they're fantastic employees, and I want them to continue to have opportunity, right? And I think you were maybe talking about it a little bit, Tammy, of like how can we find another project for you? But when you see that somebody has that, like they want to take that next step, but that it's not for them. That's not where they're meant to be. That's not the right fit for them. What are some suggestions that you have on having those conversations?
For me, it's I want to keep the employee. I don't want them to leave. So they're important to me, and I love that they tried to reach for another role. And if they didn't get it, then I'm going to think long and hard before I tell that employee that. And I want to understand what motivated them, and then go back to them with something that's a different option and say, okay, what about this over here, or what about this in another year or two? Like, you want to respect that. You want to appreciate it, but it comes with conversation. It's a delicate conversation, honestly.
I would agree. I would agree. I think highlighting the things that they did well throughout the interview process is very important. But bringing back what they could do differently if the next time it comes around and they can have the opportunity to apply for it. And I've been in that situation, and I've offered, like, these are the things that I see that you need to work on to make sure that you are a good fit for this role. And the next time the role came around, it was the same interview, and I said, you were here before. We had this conversation. What did you do to improve yourself, to make you a better fit for this position? And sometimes it's been, well, I didn't. I just continued to do my work. And then you can have that conversation to say, this was honest feedback for you, and these are the things that you will need to do in order to achieve this position if you want. So, and sometimes they're like, oh, I did this a little bit, or, I've dabbled in that. But I just think the honest feedback as what can be improved is vital.
Clarity is kindness, right?
Yes, exactly.
Any other questions out there? Evan.
Thank you. How are you guys managing diversity in your teams and promoting different relationships? Because, you know, as a man in revenue cycle, I'm one of few, right? And on the provider side, it's mostly a women-led area. So how are you guys incorporating diversity amongst your teams, not just ethnically or, you know, gender identifying, but across the whole continuum?
When we look for people to add to our team, we don't restrict it by geography in any way. We're across the U.S., but when it comes to evaluating the candidates, it's rev cycle. I mean, I got 2 guys on my team. I mean, most of it tends to be women that are in it. It's medical billing. They, you know, high school graduates, they got a job and they're really good at it. They've been doing it for 10, 20 years, and we're delighted that that's part of it. And so, but you bring up a good point, like how do you find those candidates? And so for mine, when I'm thinking about it, we've ended up landing in traditional areas, although that was never the intent. Like the Jim is on my team. I mean, I recruited him from the other side of the business to come build bots for me and do that kind of stuff. But that's tech right there. And then Tyler, who's my solutions consultant. I mean, he's just absolutely amazing and fantastic. But you know, that's just the way it ended up. So I think when it comes to diversity in terms of the revenue cycle, we take the candidates as we receive them, and a lot of them tend to be the type that are high school graduates. So from that perspective, we're not saying that you have to have, you know, a college degree. We don't put that into our positions randomly. I mean, that would be very thoughtfully put in there, because I think that does eliminate a lot of people, often needlessly so. It used to be like, you know, 10 years ago, you always put that on there. Oh, if they want to be a manager, they must have it. And so we're very careful not to do that. So, and that's the way we approach it. I don't know if it quite gets to what you were looking for, but that's the way we try to make sure the way we describe the jobs that we're going to attract the most that we can get from the variety of candidates.
I would say my last mate, you know, higher up position was a male. And honestly, he didn't come with all the traditional experience that I would normally typically expect from somebody. But what he brought with him was a change in a culture, a more inclusive culture. And he runs we call it UMG Connect. Every month, he celebrates all the anniversaries and he celebrates the retirements. And he brought a different dynamic to the team that hadn't been there before. And so I didn't choose him because he was a male. I chose him because he had the culture and the experience that I needed for my team to continue to grow. But to land there organically is really hard. I had 91 resumes. And from what I could tell, just by names alone, there was 2 males that applied for that position. And so it's really hard. It's not because I'm trying to be exclusive. It's just you get the candidates you get.
Thank you all so very much for sharing your insights, strategies, and personal experiences. What I'm hearing today is that recruitment and onboarding are no longer transactional steps. They're critical leadership opportunities to set the tone for culture, equity, and performance. If there's one takeaway from this conversation, it's that attracting and onboarding talent is about more than filling roles. It's about creating belonging, building pathways for growth, and ensuring that our future workforce feels as invested in us as we are in them. Please join me in thanking our incredible panelists for their wisdom and inspiration.